Well, hi everybody. Rusty here again. One of the questions I get a lot, not really having to do with hiking, but is simply, how do I make these videos? So I figured, well, doing something special for my 99th video, I'm going to answer that question. Okay, I'd like to start with this little disclaimer before I get into this. First of all, I'm in no way a YouTube or video expert. I do this for fun. I'll never monetize this particular channel, or I seriously doubt that I will. I mean, I've got 31 subscribers. Not going to make any money on it. I don't intend to. I do this for fun. So I'm merely putting this video together to answer questions and inquiry from my friends is how do I make my videos? So let me give some context. Consider this aspect of videos. I call it production sophistication. And I put videos on a scale from 1 to 100. At the 1 level is the grandparent sitting in the auditorium holding up their phone at their granddaughter's dance recital and comes up with a video out of that and just passes it around. Not very sophisticated production-wise. Then at the other end of the scale, you'll get things like films or documentaries that you might see in an IMAX theater. You pay money to go see. And these you can actually find on YouTube. YouTube videos can sometimes be very sophisticated. So production sophistication does not equate to the quality of the material or the presentation. For example, there is a YouTuber out there. I won't mention him his name just because I have no relationship with him, and I don't know if he'd appreciate my little channel even mentioning him. He has 700,000 or more subscribers as of this recording. Like that's, I don't know, 25,000 times as many as I have. He gives very astute social and political commentary. He seems to be making his videos in a storage room. It's a neat one, but it's a storage room. His sound and his lighting is just right, and his production sophistication, which I'm calling PS, seems to be perfect for his purposes. He starts out with a, hi there people, says what he's going to talk about it. He delivers his commentary. Like I said, it's usually very astute, and then he signs off. And that's it. There's no opening, no closing, it's just kind of a talking head. I mean, a little bit more about what I'm showing here. So I have this rule that basically says, if you don't notice the production sophistication, then it's probably just right for the presentation. I mean, if you're sitting there, if you look at some of my earlier videos, they will drive you crazy. The lighting is not good. The sound is not good. You got to turn it way up. And you'll probably notice that. Well, I had not learned and acquired the equipment yet for the right amount of sophistication for my style of presentation. So I have these self-ratings. As you may know, I have a whole bunch of different playlists. And I would say my New England shorts and the trail vignettes are probably, down at that level, a 1 or a 2. I call it a 2, I'm a braggart, I guess. Just a little bit better than the grandparents sitting in the auditorium. It's just things that have happened on the trail, and it's just video. Probably not real interesting to people who don't know me personally or weren't there with me. My On the Trail series, where I'm actually trying to teach something or demonstrate something that happens on the trail, or my trail musings where I'm getting philosophical about hiking, I give myself a 4 because it's a little bit more than just spontaneous. I mean, it's scripted in the sense that I have a topic to talk about. My equipment series, I threw in some PowerPoint there, which is what you're seeing here actually. And in that case, yeah, a little bit better. Give myself a 5 on that. Not real sophisticated, but a little bit more. And then we get into this series here, the Trail Talk series, and I'm going to give myself a little bit more because I do have an opening, closing. I have added lighting. I do sound more than just recording it off the camera because that's generally a no-no. That doesn't give you good quality sound. I do use Microsoft PowerPoint to get me going. And I do some post-production editing with either OpenShot, which is what I used to use, and now I use DaVinci Resolve 17. So here's my setup. You can see I have these lights and I have these reflective boards. That's something I'm actually just trying now. These are ring lights, and ring lights are notorious for reflecting in glasses and eyes. If you may have noticed, this is the first time I've actually used it, these reflector boards. They're cheap, $1.25 foam boards. But in my prior videos, whenever I turn my glasses just slightly, you would see the reflection of the rings. And you can see that in a lot of YouTube videos, even very good channels, you know, the Young Turks, I can see it a lot of times in them. There's certain doctors who sometimes I'll watch their videos and I can see the ring lights reflecting in their glasses. It's like one of those things, once you know to look for it, you start to see it everywhere. So you can see right there, I don't even have a tripod. I have a Kleenex box turned on its side and I mount the, I put the camera there. I am actually looking kind of past the camera at the presentation that I'm going through. And you can see down there I have a little zoom recorder and what's called a lav mic or a lavalier mic, and that's how I record the sound. Kind of a very inexpensive setup. So for the video, I just use my Samsung Galaxy S9. I do have an SD card in it. I'm doing 1920 by 1080, and that's all I need for talking head videos. I mean, that's basically what you're getting on YouTube if you're in high definition. I did consider getting a 4K camera because that would be good for the trail. The advantages of the 4K camera, because it's going to be rendered at 1920 by 1080 before I put it on YouTube, but I could zoom in without losing resolution. There's also the potential for stabilization without losing resolution, and I'm going to get into that. My conundrum that I get into is that I wouldn't mind using a 4K camera right here in my office for this presentation, but I don't want to bring it out on the trail. And where would I benefit from it? Out on the trail. So it's when I'm out on the trail, I actually want to be enjoying my hiking. I don't want to be setting up shots and all that sort of thing. Some YouTubers do it, and I give them credit. I mean, they do a fantastic job with it. And I'm thinking maybe I'll start doing that next year, because this year is my last long section hike. It's just not fair to my wife for me to take off, year after year, 2 months during the summer. So, she's encouraging me to finish the section hiking of the Appalachian Trail. But once I'm done with that, which should be this year, I won't be going on those quite so long hikes anymore. Maybe 2 weeks. She said maybe 3 weeks might be doable. Or maybe I'll just go out for a week at a time, and maybe I will do some more sophisticated video taking. But right now, this is where I stand. So I haven't gotten a more, a higher resolution camera simply because I don't need it where I could use it, and I can't use it where I'd need it, or I don't want to use it. I don't want to bring, a $1,000 camera with me out on the trail. Plus, I don't want to carry the extra weight. So here's an example of stabilization that the camera can do. Now, I believe that with a 4K camera, the stabilization algorithms would have more to work with and might work a little better. With stabilization, the camera or the post-processing is trying to adjust for the jerky motion. So let's take a look at this video. So in this video, I'm actually comparing stabilization mechanisms. On the left side of this screen, I walked up this road with my camera not stabilizing, and on the right side I did it with the camera stabilizing, and across the top is not stabilizing in post-processing, across the bottom is stabilizing with post-processing. So we have the 4 combinations there of camera and software stabilization. Now you can see that it's very jerky on the upper left where there's no stabilization being employed. I believe the lower left and the upper right, They show that the camera stabilization and the post-processing stabilization are approximately the same. You combine the two of them and there's a subtle difference. It's a little bit more stable, but just an example of just another level of processing sophistication, production sophistication. Okay, so that was just a little bit of a look into some of the things that one might consider when doing these sorts of videos. So, like I said with the lighting, I use simple ring lights with these reflector boards. I'm still learning the best placement for them. This is the first video they've actually used those reflector boards. And like I said before, many YouTubers, you can catch the ring lights reflections in their eyes and glasses. I do use some natural lighting if I'm doing it during the day, but I usually like to pull down the shade that's to my right because direct sunlight can come in and really wash me out. Another thing I'm learning. And I have an overhead room light, and that's pretty basically it for lighting. Now with sound, I use the simple lavalier mic. You can kind of see it here. I actually record it into a Zoom recorder. There may be some noise from me picking it up and showing it, a Zoom recorder. And I sync the audio track from this recorder with the video during post-production because the sound from the camera is very weak. If you see any of my earlier videos where I was doing a talking head video, you'll see that there was actually a pretty weak sound on those. With PowerPoint, I did my opening theme. I do these talking head videos where the PowerPoint is on the side, and I do the closing credits. Now I have a set of 8 openings and closings. I did find out some interesting things about trying to get you know, the credits scrolling right within PowerPoint. They're very, very smooth. But when I started doing post-processing, there had to be some kind of frame rate mismatch or something. I just couldn't get them. They're just too jerky. Plus, having credits scroll across a scene, my closing is always just a photograph of something that I've taken while out on the trail. And finding a color for the print that actually looks good on all the colors across the scene is difficult to do, and probably that's why you don't see it in movies too much. So I've actually changed that, and you'll see that in the closing here, how I've switched the closing. When I'm recording, I do have the video track. It is somewhat unscripted. I can't read from a script, and it just sounds unnatural. I know I've got a lot of ums and ers, and I need to, you know, get better at speaking on these videos, but the scripting I have is simply the PowerPoint. I'm watching the PowerPoint while I'm recording this. Again, audio track, simultaneous recording, and then the PowerPoint track, I actually record it with the PowerPoint capability by watching my videos and listening, because I can still hear even though the sound's not great, and just advancing the slides, and then later I combine all of these. So for hardware and software, I used to have an HP Pavilion computer, you know, PC, and I used OpenShot, which is an open source free video editing software. It's very good, especially given that it's free. But it was, because of the power of my computer, it was a 3-to-1 rendering time to play time. So in other words, if I had a 15-minute video, it would take 45 minutes to render all the mix of the tracks and everything. And I could not play it back to myself beforehand in real time. It was just very difficult for the workflow, and it was more probably as much the fault of the hardware as I had as OpenShot. Like I said, OpenShot is a very good product. So now I went out and I got a gaming computer. Some of my friends advised against it, said it was a tail wagging the dog. But you know, gaming, they have powerful GPUs, so I went out and bought one. I don't have any games on the computer. I don't use it for that. But it has this specification here. I'm not going to read it to you. I do use DaVinci Resolve 17, another free product. I mean, you can buy an upgraded product, but for simple sorts of editing that I do, which is just, you know, a little bit of blue screen to mix the PowerPoint and the video stream, I can do a little bit of color correction. I'm just learning how to do that. And I can, mix the audio track with the video track. And now I've got a 1:7 rendering time to play time. In other words, if I've got a 14-minute video, it renders in about 2 minutes instead of about 45 minutes. And I can play back in real time. So whereas before I used to have to play back, I used to have to render and then play it back to myself, see my mistakes and re-render. It could take a good 6 hours to get a video. Now usually by the time I'm ready to render it, I've got it right because I've been able to watch it. And partly I couldn't figure out how to get OpenShot to work with my GPU. So that's why, one of the reasons I switched over to DaVinci. DaVinci is used by professionals. Again, they do have a professional level. They are camera makers. So that's why I use that. So the bottom line is my video production, relatively inexpensive. These lights cost like $40 each. The sound equipment I have is just, I think it was under $100. The camera is my phone, so I didn't have to go and buy anything special for that. It's entry-level sophistication. Again, I gave myself a 15, and maybe that was overdoing it. Some people tell me, no, if you've got light and sound, you're up to 50. Well, maybe I'm more sophisticated than 50% of YouTubers, but on an absolute scale, I'm nowhere near any level of sophistication as somebody who's going to be doing some video, true, videography. So I'd like to end with a little bit of suggested viewing. Last time I mentioned the teaching company course about outdoor activities, staying safe in the outside. Well, now there's something from Wondrium, which I guess is still teaching company. I mean, I bought it through the teaching company, but I guess the great courses are teaching company, and Wondrium are also teaching company. This is the Art of Video Storytelling with Bob Christ. He was a freelance photographer and filmmaker. It's again, my business relationship with the teaching company is that I send them money and they send me courses. It really does assume you're actually a still photographer and know all about f-stops and stuff like that. In a way, I felt I had stumbled into a graduate level course, so I figured I would audit it, and I did learn quite a bit. Even though he's talking about making stories, real documentary sorts of films, and I'm just doing these YouTube videos. It was very instructive. And again, wait for the sales if you decide you want to get into making YouTube videos and want to learn a little bit about what it takes. So that's it. That's how I make the YouTube videos, and I hope this answers what people have asked. And again, I'm not an expert. It's just what I do. Thanks for listening.